Hello, future Boilermakers, and welcome to our YouTube live broadcast for the School of Construction Management Technology and the Polytechnic Institute at Purdue University. I first want to say congratulations to our student viewers who've been admitted to one of our majors here in the Polytechnic, and we're so glad that you could join us for our panel discussion today to give you some more insight and some more information about our Construction Management Technology department. For tonight's panel, we have several faculty members, an academic advisor, and a couple of current students who are going to share their information, share their experiences within this department. We have some prepared topics that we'll go over with them as well. We also want to know what kind of questions you have and what you want to know about this department in the Polytechnic. So you can submit those questions via the YouTube chat function of this broadcast. John O'Malley, our technical director behind the scenes, and I will keep an eye on that chat and bring those questions to our faculty members and our panelists. So you can sign up to your Google account and type those in, and we'll respond to those either in the chat or again, bring those to the panelists themselves. If we don't get to your question tonight, please feel free to follow up with us. Send an email to techrecruit@purdue.edu, and we'll make sure we respond to that at some point, hopefully by tomorrow at some point as well. So with that, I'll have our panelists introduce themselves with their name, their position within the college, maybe where they're from, and for our faculty members, a little bit about the courses that you teach here in the department as well. So I'm gonna go down the list that I see, and we'll start with Danielle.
Hi, I am Danielle Gilbert. I'm one of two academic advisors here in the School of Construction Management, and I have been an advisor in this program for 11 years.
Thanks, Danielle. Next up is Luciana.
Hi, everyone. My name is Luciana Debs. I'm an assistant professor here in the School of Construction Management Technology. I've been here for 6 years. I come from the design side, so as a design manager before coming here. And the courses that I teach, mainly I teach the capstone. So if you have any questions on that, the first portion of the capstone. And then I also teach most of our design and construction integration courses.
All right, excellent, thank you. Next up is Mark.
Hi, everyone. My name is Mark Zimpfer. I'm an assistant professor of practice in the School of Construction Management Technology. I come from industry, about 30 years of experience, and own my own construction company. I teach a lot of different courses in our department, everything from our Introduction to Construction, the very first course that you take in the program. I teach the residential concentration courses, and I also teach the second semester of our senior capstone course in our program. And I'm the faculty advisor to the National Association of Home Builders student chapter here at Purdue.
All right, thank you, Mark. Next up is Orlando.
Hi there, Orlando Hernandez. I'm a senior in the CMT program, Construction Management. And I'm also taking a minor in Computer Graphics Technology. And I'm from Goshen, Indiana, and I'll be graduating here soon and moving to Indy to work with master construction.
All right, we'll definitely want to hear more about that later on tonight, Orlando. Next up then is Ryan.
Hi, how's everyone doing? I am Ryan Manuel. Just like Mark, I am also an assistant professor of practice. I teach primarily in our CM 150 course, which is kind of introductory into the program. And I also teach across a couple other courses as well, much like Mark. Maybe not quite as much as Mark does nowadays, but still quite a bit. I also come from industry. I spent 15 years in the construction industry after graduating from Purdue, and have been with the program now for just almost 3 years, just about 3 years. I'm also from right here in God's country, West Lafayette, Indiana. So thank you.
Oh, it's a little bit of a homecoming for you then, graduating from the program and now teaching the program. That's fantastic. And last but certainly not least, Trevor.
Hi, everybody. My name is Trevor Craig. I am also a senior studying construction management. I also have a minor in organizational leadership and a certificate in entrepreneurship. I am from Fort Wayne, Indiana, and like Orlando, I am also going to work for Messer in Indianapolis after construction.
All right, awesome. Thank you all for the introductions. So I think our first question, because academics is first and foremost for our students here coming to the program. And we'll start with Mark and Ryan, since you kind of teach some of those intro courses, and then the same question for Luciana as well for you. How are the courses designed within the major, or their lectures and labs, group projects? How are those courses made up? And Mark, we'll start with you, and then Ryan, if you have some more to add as well.
Sure. Our courses if we look at, say, the introductory course, it's more of a lecture-based course. But after that CM 100 course, we do have a lecture and lab component to almost all of our courses. And I think some people think lab, that they're going to be working in a lab. Well, we use lecture and lab. Purdue uses lecture and lab to talk about more of a lecture-based course, kind of more traditional. But lab-based is more active learning. So we may introduce a topic in the lecture based on some readings. Doesn't mean it's going to be a straightforward old school lecture with one person up in front of the room, but the lab base is where we're going to break out into some smaller groups, and we may be working on calculations, or in Ryan's course, CM 150, there is a lab component. They're building structures, and Ryan can talk about that. We may be doing soil analysis. We may be doing a site visit during the lab component. So we try to use lecture and lab to reinforce whatever topics that we're talking about. So we have a chance to read about it, a chance to talk about it, a chance to practice it as a small group or a large group, then a small group, and then individually, and try to make sure that the student would get the topic multiple times during that week in different formats, so we can try to hit as many learning styles as possible. And then the senior capstone project is a little bit different, and we'll address that later on tonight.
You want me to pick up from there, Ryan? Okay, yeah, so I mean, I echo everything that Mark said. I mean, it really is traditionally, we do have that set up with that lecture and lab format. And at the lab, I really like to take advantage of that time to separate out into those smaller groups and actually engage with the students and get those smaller collaborations. That's where I really get to know who our students are, right? That's where we get to have that personal connection. I get to, know who their name is, right? Like Orlando on the call and Trevor. That's where I get to, really understand who they are as a person, how they learn, things that they like to do, and kind of help them, guide them in that direction of maybe they're more hands-on, maybe they want more calculations, they need a little more assistance here and there. This is where we can really kind of dive in and get more in the weeds on helping and kind of educating those individuals and kind of leaning in on their strengths and kind of helping them within their weaknesses as well. But yeah, the lab component in 150 is very much hands-on. We do have some labs that aren't quite as heavy hands-on, but we are, like Mark said, we're building structures, right? So we're down there with hard hats, safety glasses, work boots, jeans, just like we're on a job site. And we run it much like we would in a job site. We're very safety conscious as well. And we got to make sure that we're teaching all those aspects like you would actively come upon on an active job site. So there are a lot of dynamics that come across on that, and even in the other courses as well. But that's kind of the lab component. I guess my take on the lecture lab component.
Awesome. And then Luciana, for the design and construction integration, a little bit different approach potentially with that major. Can you detail some how those courses work?
Sure. A lot of the courses are shared between construction management and DCI. So that's a lot of, for example, the lab with the hands-on component, and they also do that. But some of the CM courses we substituted by studio courses, so they're slightly different. They still have a minor lecture component just to kind of guide them through, but the major part of it is being in a studio and designing. They're usually individual projects with a group component, if that makes any sense. So for example, they work in a community and design their individual projects. So they still have to think about the community as a group and then detail their individual buildings. So it's a lot of sketching, designing in the computers, simulations, a lot of software hands-on in that sense, where they're actually designing something either in the computer or sketching out. So a lot of the design construction integration courses have this hands-on in terms of design, and a few of them are more on the lecture. So I would say like a third is on the lecture and the rest is really on the hands-on design side.
That's great. And actually, my next question was, we'll start with you. You mentioned software programs and how students are getting that design experience. What kind of software they're utilizing, and kind of touched on that as a little bit. A question that we got earlier. Any laptop recommendations or computer recommendations along that? That tends to be a question we get a lot here at the Polytechnic for students coming into these majors.
Okay, sure. So I would say when they come in, either CM or DCI, they have to take either a CAD, so computer aided design course, or a BIM, building information modeling course. So those are, they're heavy on the computer, they're computer graphics technology, so CGT classes. And we use Revit or AutoCAD. So if you've done any like those drafting classes, that would be the one that you would use. And they have, they do consume a lot of their, RAM power. So I would suggest students to see if they want to have that installed. We do have it installed in all of our computers, but if they do want to do it at home, to make sure that they have something that is compatible with Revit, especially because Revit is really demanding. So, and then we use SketchUp, which is a little less demanding than Revit. We use Zimfer for energy simulations. We use Lumion for rendering, so to make the design really look realistic. So a lot of software is on that side. And they also design using Revit as they move and progress through their design. And so that's more on the design side, and I know my colleagues can talk about the others in the construction side of things.
Yeah, sure. Ryan or Mark want to jump in there. And you mentioned soil analysis, and I always see students out in the front of Conoy doing some surveying as well. And what other kind of things are they utilizing in that structure building for the lab as well?
Yeah, we can't just teach the design side. I mean, that's part of our industry, but our industry, has the design side, then it has the construction side. So we use programs like Procore to teach the construction management software, and that's software that you can run a job with, to house all your documents, do all your communication back and forth. Yeah, we do go out into the field and practice everything from basic surveying to more advanced surveying, and there's a lot of things changing in that field with robotic surveying and drone surveying. So we're constantly upgrading our equipment as we go along, and the technology that's available. There's more money right now in technology flowing to the construction industry than other industries, and that's because there's a need. We need to advance the way we build a bridge or a road or a building. So there's a lot of really, exciting things happening with robotics and offsite construction that we need to stay on top of. We need to make sure our students have been exposed to, so they understand the terminology and the basics behind it. And that way, when they hit the industry, they're not, 2 years behind education-wise, where the industry might be, the day that they head out to the world. So, Ryan, anything on technology you want to add?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I guess I'll kind of just piggyback off where you just kind of ended there. I mean, just kind of keeping up with technology. Yeah, I mean, as a group of faculty members, we want to make sure that we're, keeping pace with what industry is doing. I know, like Mark, obviously he builds his own houses. He has his own construction company, so he's constantly staying fresh with what industry is doing and how he builds and adapting to new technologies and to new materials, new way of doing things. Like Luciana and I, we've both gone out in industry over the summer and worked with contractors over the summer, just kind of stay fresh on everything, and making sure that we're doing our due diligence in the classroom and keeping everything as fresh and as current as we possibly can. But also, yeah, on the side from that, yeah, just like you mentioned with the surveying technology, we also use that same kind of technology, that robotics technology. So Trimble robotic total station, we have a few of those in our department. We're actually going to be using that on Thursday with one of my labs. We're going to be laying out some MEP layout. So it's going to be a cool lab where we're actually going to lay out the plumbing underground of a plan that's actually adopted from an actual building currently being built on campus, Hagel Hall. We actually have the full-on schematics of that underground, control points and everything. And we're going to guide the students on setting up and going through that exercise. So really cool stuff that is being done in industry today. We're going to transfer that into the classroom and still get that same environment and try to mimic it as much as we can and get that same exercise going that you would naturally get a hold of in industry. But just like Mark said as well, with the construction management software, obviously it's going to be a big thing. Document management is huge in construction, so having those softwares to help us manage all of that documentation and the communication workflow, that's going to be massive. But yeah, other things like that, basic things like Bluebeam even and your PDF. I live in Bluebeam. When I look at plans and review drawings, that's where I live, and that's my baby, Bluebeam, right? So I spend so much time in that, especially when I was out in industry. So that's going to be another big one we're going to expose them to in several classes, right? So I mean, I guess there's just a few things. There's so much more we could probably dig even deeper into. There could probably do a couple-hour lesson on YouTube Live if we wanted to, just in technology that's coming up in construction.
Yeah, there's so much in AR, VR that's coming to construction, and some of our faculty work in that world and create safety training in a virtual world. We have a cat or a caterpillar simulator, so you can jump into the simulator and drive all kinds of Caterpillar equipment and understand how difficult that job is, right? It's hard to manage people if you don't understand the technique it takes to do their job. So all you have to do is spend about 5 minutes in the CAT simulator and go, wow, the equipment operators are really good at their job, because the simulator tells you how many times you've, crashed the machine or struck the ground with the bucket. And so it's an exciting time. There's a lot coming to construction, and we're constantly adding new technology and new tools to the program every semester.
Great, thank you for all that detail. It's awesome. You keeping up with what the industry expects our students to have and our graduates to have as well. So speaking of students, I'm going to turn it over to Trevor and then Orlando. Maybe share a little bit about maybe a couple of your favorite projects that you've had. Obviously, you've had almost 4 full years in this program to kind of reminisce about what you've done, and kind of going back to the software programs as well. Were you able to access utilizing your own computer, or did you use on-campus labs mostly? Just kind of give us a sense of what our students might be expecting to experience. So Trevor, we'll start with you for that question.
Yeah, so definitely in the beginning, I used my own personal laptop a lot because when we were taking the AutoCAD and Revit classes, Purdue gave us a license to download AutoCAD and Revit and get to use it. So I could do it on my personal computer, although I did find that my personal computer almost always had to be plugged in because it does require a lot of battery power. As I've gone farther through the program, I mean, Orlando can attest to this, part of our college experience was taken from COVID. So I figured out that I could what's it called? The virtual into a computer in Kanoi. And so I would do that from my own personal computer for a while, because like they said, the computers in the labs have all of the softwares we need. And then now that we're kind of getting back to normal, I'll just go to Kanoi and use the computers in there with the softwares we need. And I, as someone who likes estimating, I loved the junior year that we did estimating and using the on-screen takeoff, and we learned estimating through spreadsheet. My internships used an actual estimating software. So I liked the projects where I got to learn how to use those softwares because I had done them in internships already. So coming to class was super easy because I was like, okay, I can do this. Just crank it out and get it done and over with. So I liked those kinds of projects.
Yeah, and kind of being back off that too. One of my favorite things too about it was I'm taking a minor in CGT right now, so I get to use a lot of Revit and all these other different programs as well. One of my favorite projects for me was our senior capstone, just because we actually got to design, estimate, schedule, and they gave us a real life prompt, like here in Lafayette area, saying hey, the Lafayette city is considering building this. Here's the prompt for it. Try to figure something out for it. So I was in a healthcare concentration, but it was a cool experience because one, I got to use all these different software. So Revit, I got to use it, and then use Lumion for rendering, which was a really cool experience just because I've never really was using it that often early on in my career. But I got to learn through Luciana and also some of the DCI students like Jill and stuff like that. And then some of my other favorite programs too was when I was in a concentration for MEP with Sparkling and Ryne. They taught us how to use this. I can't think of the software right now, but to do takeoff on all the different MEP systems. But it was just neat to think about all the different softwares they have for different estimating programs and stuff like that. And I feel like besides that, one of my favorite things that kind of like take it back to the roots was CM 150, just because it's like the basic, it's the foundation, if you will, of learning the basic concepts of how things are put together. So for the time when I'm putting an estimate or designing something in Revit, I understand how things are put together. I understand how things are supposed to come together. So I just like how the program has been set up for ourselves as well.
It's awesome. You had some good experiences there. And Orlando, you mentioned the senior capstone, and I think Luciana, you said you teach the first class, and then Mark teaches the second one. So Luciana, I'll start with you. What's the process look like? What's that first course look like? And then Mark, for the second course, how does that work? And then we'll turn it over to Trevor, because I think you did your senior capstone as well, finishing up here pretty soon. So start with that.
Yeah, so the capstone, I mean, the first and the second is pretty much project-based. So in their first semester, we give them a real prompt from industry, which is called a request for proposals. So they have to it's essentially a very big document. They're assigned groups and they work in groups, and they have to come up with their own company, their logo, their marketing plan. Then they have to design a building, and it can vary between, healthcare. Even we have some bridges sometimes. We try to really tailor to what the students want to do, residential projects. So it's very varied. Um, so they come up with so they have a very minor prompt, very open-ended, that they have to design, price, do their logistics plans, estimate, schedule. Essentially, they're being prepared for what they will encounter in industry. In the experience, so this is throughout the semester. They also have lectures and courses and classes to support that. So we talk about how to put design together, how the zoning, in my side, the design side, zoning information, how does that affect your schedule, your estimating. And so we walk them through the process, but they are essentially the ones putting everything together. At the end of that semester, they present to a group of industry judges, and I know that's very nerve-wracking, but that's really, and industry judges that have been through that process before. So they actually, they have questions for the students, and after, all the pressure is done, we give them feedback. And that's kind of the culmination of their first semester capstone. And then they move into the second capstone, and I'll let Mark take from there.
Yeah, so that second semester, and this would be the last semester, in our program, we're still going to use that project that was created in the first semester, CM 400. At least, and Trevor and Orlando will smile when I say this, they're at least going to use that project for part of the semester. And we're all smiling because the whole concept behind 450 is now you're taking your project that you did on paper, and we're going to run the project in the real world. Well, we don't even show the students a schedule for that semester, because in the real world of construction, when we show up on a Monday, we don't know everything that's going to happen throughout the course of the week. We know what we planned, but what we planned doesn't always happen because of weather, because of COVID, because of supply chain, the owner making changes, whatever it may be. So that's the way a lot 450 works. We may be talking about current events, and then we immediately shift into, okay, your superintendent is off the job, with an injury or with COVID or something else, for the next 14 days. How is your team going to react? What do you have to do? Or maybe we had a weather event. Maybe we had a major delivery to the job site not show up. So we try to hit them with problems, and they have to problem solve quickly as a team, try to come up with the best solution. And then what did that problem and the solution do to your overall schedule, to your budget, to your site plan, and can you track all those changes as we go. So that's part of 450. The other part is we try to use 450 as a little spot to catch up. Like if we didn't get into a topic in great depth earlier in their career. So for instance, last week we had a industry partner, a company come in and give a case study and a talk with video, with pictures about doing helicopter picks or helicopter lifts on job sites to pick up heavy pieces of equipment and put them on top of a building. And rather than me talk about it or Ryan talk about it, you bring in an industry partner that just did it on a job site and can go through all the details of what it takes to fly a helicopter into downtown Chicago and pick equipment up onto a building. So 450 is kind of a catch-all. But it's still project-based and it's still team-based, and we're trying to hit all those last topics before they head out the door.
So yeah, Trevor, you want to give us a little bit of rundown of what your capstone was like?
Yeah, so Luciana is not kidding when she says they give you a very, very vague prompt. I was given a picture of a plot of land and told build a 2-story cancer center here. That's all I was given. And of course they tell us like what our big document needs to include, but that's it. I have to design it, I have to estimate it, I have to schedule it. So we all have to very much rely on our internship experiences to understand, okay, is something really supposed to cost this much, or is something supposed to take this long? And we use our professors and their experiences to help us kind of determine that. They bring in some industry people throughout the semester to help us plan it. So it was an amazing experience, because now as someone who's going into this world where I have to work for a company who does this on a daily basis, this whole design build project thing, I'm fully prepared for it. My internships, the companies I worked for never did that. So I would have totally been dead in the water on my first day having to try and figure out how to do this. And then as for 450, it's definitely taking it another step further and thinking about, okay, now how is it going to run? My favorite day is when Mark was like, the Indiana brown bat has invaded your job site. And we were all like freaking out. We're like, what are we going to do about this? And then someone's like, wait a second, they live in caves. Do any of us have caves on our job sites? And we're all like, no. And we're like, oh, it doesn't affect us at all. So it was totally like a trick question just to get us to really have to think about how things are going to affect us and stuff. And then 450 is also cool because we don't just focus on our project. We bring in other people, and it's giving me a little bit more of a preparing for graduation and the feelings and stuff. Yesterday we had a 2-hour discussion about ethics and just presenting possibilities and how we should approach them. He brought in someone about mortgage lenders one day. I didn't realize that much went into buying a house. So I'm just a little more prepared for when the time comes, the things I'm going to have to do. So I don't feel like I'm just being thrown out in the world and told to figure it out.
That real world's going to hit you soon, though, isn't it? Well, that's really cool that you had a lot of different perspectives to take into that class. So Danielle, I want to bring you in from the academic advising perspective. So I got some questions via email just a little bit ago, actually. So what does a 9-credit-hour class look like for the construction management department? Because it's a little bit different than our traditional kind of 3-credit-hour courses you would see in college. So what does that look like, and how does the advising process work from this department overall?
Yeah, so my colleagues might need to jump in and help me a little bit with the 9-credit-hour classes, but basically, just like Mark and Ryan said, we have hands-on lab-based learning classes. And so students will be in lecture twice a week and they'll be in lab twice a week. And it's not, they won't necessarily be doing the same thing in the whole lecture or the same thing in the whole lab, and they won't be doing the same thing in the whole semester. It's going to be very, I guess just like construction, it's going to vary throughout the semester and even throughout the day on what you're actually studying in the classroom. But the exciting thing is with these 6 and 9-credit-hour classes that we have is that they're only Monday through Thursday. Our classes very rarely, maybe a 1-credit-hour class might take place on a Friday, but our classes are only Monday through Thursday. So a lot of our students are able to design their entire schedules that they don't even have a Friday class. I mean, sometimes math might creep in there, or sometimes one of your other classes might creep in there, but as far as construction goes, you're basically free on your Fridays. And I don't know if Mark and Ryan want to comment anything on the classes.
Yeah, with this, even with 6 and 9 credit hours, and when we first rolled that out, people were concerned, that's a really big class. But you still have to get the same amount of credit hours to graduate from Purdue. So you can graduate in the CM program in 3 years, the degree in 3. So it can be done. Most of our students don't go that route. And we understand that a 9 credit hour course is big, right? There's a lot of material, but we try to make sure that we're checking in with the students as we go along, especially, in that freshman year. We do kind of performance reviews, like in week 5 and week 12, just like you would get out in industry. You kind of get a performance review from your boss on how you're doing. We try to let the students know, hey, your attendance has been great. You need to spend a little more time on your quizzes, and try to give them a snapshot of where they stand, because we want to make sure we are providing all the tools necessary to complete that course, right? We don't want anybody to take a 9 credit hour course again if it was because of lack of support by the faculty, the staff, our graduate TAs. We use undergraduate TAs, which are students who are still in the program but that really excelled at a particular course, and they'll come in and be a teaching assistant in that course. So we try to provide a lot of hours outside of class where you can get your questions answered or help with the project, because ultimately we want you to be successful. That doesn't mean that you can't put in the time, right? You're still a student and you still have to put in that time and kind of grind your way through your credit hours, but we're going to be there to support you along the way.
Thanks for that. I appreciate, I think it's been apparent, at least from my perspective, how Ryan, Mark, and Luciana, you're talking about the students that are here with us, Trevor and Orlando. Like, there seems to be a good relationship that you have with the students, and I think that it kind of probably extends overall to the department. So that's very good to hear. And Danielle, back to you. You mentioned math. What's the math requirements for our students in this department, and how would they make sure they get placed in the right courses for that? And then beyond that, Trevor and Orlando are both doing minors, and Trevor's got the certificate program. How does that fit into plans of study, and how do you work with our students to make sure that can happen?
Yeah, so our students have to take up to Calculus 1, and you'll be assigned an advisor. You'll either have Glorabelle or me as your advisor, and we work very closely with our students because math at Purdue is no joke. So we work very closely with our students as they're coming in as a freshman to determine, are you ready to go into calculus? Do you need to start in pre-calculus? Do you need to start in algebra and trig and work your way up to calculus? So like I said, we work with students very closely. Our plan of study starts with pre-calculus. So some of our students would just follow the plan of study just as is. Some students may come in with AP credit or dual credit for calculus, in which case they're done with math completely in our program and they celebrate. But yeah, it's like I said, we work very closely because we definitely don't want to set anybody up for failure, and make sure that they are in a math that they can handle in their first semester and continue into calculus and complete that. And as far as earning a minor or certificate, it's actually very easy in our plan of study because we have 4 free electives that our students can do with whatever they want. And so that's a really good way to use your free electives. Some minors or certificates overlap with degree requirements we have anyway. So if you know early on that you want to earn an entrepreneurship certificate, or you want to earn the construction graphics minor, or whatever you want to earn, we can make sure that when there's a selective in place, or whatever degree requirement, that if there's an overlap there, we'll do that to make sure that we can be as economical with your credits and pack in as much stuff as you want to pack in before you graduate.
All right, that's awesome. You're with the students for all 4 years, is that correct? Same
Yes.
students? Excellent. So you get, I think like our faculty members get a good chance to build those relationships with students as well. That's awesome. All right, so I'm gonna kind of turn the topic over to internships, professional work experiences, and kind of placement, what's going on after graduation for our students. Because Trevor, you mentioned your internships before, and you and Orlando introduced yourselves with Messer Construction as your your next step after graduation. So tell us a little bit about how you found your internships, and then eventually you got that full-time job as well. So Trevor, we'll start with you, and then same question for Orlando.
Yeah, so I did 3 summers with a general contractor in Fort Wayne, where I'm from, just a small little general contractor. I worked as an estimating intern, so that's where I really got my love and passion for estimating. People like Orlando don't really see my side of it. Um, but my first year or my first summer, I kind of just learned their softwares. I kind of worked as like a double checker for the estimators. I helped them just go through documents and stuff. My second summer, I got to start working with subcontractors and bidding my own projects, which was super cool to be able to like win projects for my company and actually be helping them, make a profit and function as an actual construction company. And then my third summer, I kind of got thrown into this position of being like a senior estimator due to some quitting and internal rearranging. But it was cool then. I mean, it was a challenge, but it was cool to be able to have this experience of having to really step up and lead things and like win projects and do it myself. And so all of that has really helped me to be able to find a career after school and to be confident in being able to go out and do that. So my internship I got through a personal connection. I have some family that knows people in construction. And then my full-time job I actually got through one of our professors, Danny Wyman. I kind of went to him and was like, who should I talk to? I'm ready to move away from home and not go back. And he was like, yeah, I'm going to send you to these people. I also did go to all of our career fairs and I did talk to companies and get interviews through them and stuff. So I had options to pick from. I just chose that this was the best one for me, is going to Messer in Indianapolis.
Similar experience to Trevor, and thanks for throwing me under the bus, Trevor. Yeah, no, I'm kidding. But no, seriously though, well, one of the things that got me my full-time company with Messer was honestly the relationships I had with my faculty and advisors. I just kind of want to echo that because we didn't echo on it. I feel like one of the words that come up in construction a lot is culture. And the culture we have within the CM department is really like it found me. I've honestly seen Luciana, Danielle Gilbert at night, like 6 p.m. when I'm going in there to work on Revit. Sometimes I'll procrastinate and start talking to them and have like an hour conversation. But like it's because of those conversations that they really do care about all of us. And that goes to our professors too. I've talked to Mark, Danny, and Brad about just how to get a job, how to what are benefits. I don't know what the benefit is. What are all these different things when I was getting offers. Just kind of wanted to echo that. But as far as my internship experiences go, so I've had 4 different internships. One before college, that was in my hometown, and that was kind of a commercial, and that was kind of just solidified my reasoning to go into construction. Although I had like 2 years of like labor experience, like in framing, drywall, and roofing beforehand. The management side was much more different, and those skills obviously helped me a lot more. Excel in the management aspect of it. But when I came to Purdue, one thing that helped me the most was honestly the career fairs. We have one in the fall semester and another one in the spring semester. And honestly, I think every single semester we've had 150 plus. One semester we almost had 200 companies, 199 I think, literally one shy. But it's really awesome to just go to these career fairs. And I know Trevor could probably agree to this. It's towards the end when you're graduating, it starts becoming like a Shark Tank for the seniors who are graduating. These companies start coming to us, asking us for our resumes and stuff. I kid you not, I had companies while I'm sitting outside writing my notes after talking to a company come talk to me and say like, hey, can I have your resume? Or, oh, you're a graduating senior, that's exciting. Like, come talk to us. So it has given us a lot of opportunities. And one thing I like to say about that too is I myself wanted to get outside of Indiana when I first came to Purdue because I'm also from Indiana. And so I purposely every single semester chose a different company. One, just to broaden my resume. And 2, I did different sectors of construction and different areas around the world. So one summer I went to San Francisco. Another one I went to Chicago, Illinois. And then I went to Denver this past summer. So I kind of kind of goes to show you what kind of companies we attract to our career fairs. We attract them from all around the world. Our advisors do a great job, like 4 weeks before, a month before the career fair. They send it out in Excel to all of us saying like, hey, these are the companies that are coming. This is what they're looking for. Here's the areas they are hiring for. So like, I literally would look at that Excel and be like, this summer I kind of want to try to get a job in Denver. So I'm going to try to look for companies there. So again, and there's some people who just wanted to work nearby or new connections through family relatives. And for my full time with Messer, again, I actually got it through Danny Wyman, sort of not. I was already talking to the guys at Messer, and then Danny texted me like, "Hey, the Messer guys told me you talked to them. Give me your resume. I'm gonna send it to the president." So it goes to show how much our faculty members really care about us to try to give us that our foot into that door and have us do the rest, as you will.
And Orlando, what's your job title going to be when you get there?
I'll be a project engineer, so I'll be working in the healthcare sector with Messer. So hopefully, IU or Riley Hospital out in Indy.
And Trevor, estimating, is that correct?
Yeah, so I'm going to be figuring out how expensive Orlando's projects will be, and then he gets mad at me because I didn't give him enough money,
I love
That'll be a fun
relationships.
interaction for you two then. Very cool. So Luciana, can you give us maybe some career pathways that you see design and construction integration students going into from this program?
Sure. I think the design and construction integration students lend themselves more for pre-construction jobs. So obviously estimating could be one, especially on the conceptual side, but also as a design manager, just kind of managing all the pieces of the design and make sure, the estimate checks out, the quality assurance checks out. It could be project engineer. So there's a lot of overlap with construction. Maybe the design manager, that would be kind of a different one. There is certainly a lot of overlap with construction management. It's just kind of a different route, more on the understanding the designers that work behind it. So certainly some of that quality engineer, design manager, project engineer, estimator, and even owner's rep would be another one. So just representing the owner, working with contractors and designers.
All right, awesome. Mark and Ryan, do you have any other job pathways that you see students going into once they graduate as well that you want to add on to what we've already heard?
Yeah, I could try to jump in there real fast. I mean, I guess just to kind of even tout Luciana there as well as DCI. I mean, I've seen a lot of students kind of gravitate towards that BIM side of things and or VDC, all that stuff, and AR, all that stuff kind of spins off of that with the BIM model itself. I feel like it kind of starts there and just kind of goes nuts from there, right? There's so much there right there in that sector and in that growth area right there. I feel like all these companies have a lot of their departments continue to grow drastically. It blows my mind. I talked to some companies like a mechanical contractor, for example, out of Chicago. 20 years ago, they probably had one person that might have done CAD for them. And now they have a department of 30 people that do BIM and work on prefabrication, just all the technology and things. And they have somebody that manages that from the design aspect of it as well. So just the amount of growth there is in some of this technology that is integrated right now into construction is fantastic. But yeah, I mean, just other avenues. I mean, obviously, like they mentioned, general contractors, specialty contractors, electrical, mechanical, plumbing, residential, commercial, industrial. I mean, some of our students have done a little bit of all that stuff. Owners rep. I mean, we've even had students go work for like Tesla for a summer in construction management. Just so many cool things you can get into, and really, like Orlando mentioned and kind of spoke to, you can pretty much go anywhere around the world, and even obviously here within our nation here in the U.S. You can pretty much go anywhere and do anything and work on anything you really want to get into. There's something for everybody, I feel like, in construction.
I think that's a good point, Ryan, and it's constantly changing, right? We're seeing a lot of students get opportunities in green construction. So that would be, wind turbines and solar fields. There's just so many different avenues out there. And I think that's one of the things about construction management is if you're, Trevor obviously got the right brain for numbers and estimating and has a passion for it. If you love design, there's an avenue for you. If you want to be boots on the ground and out there, you know, constructing the building, there's an avenue for that. You want to be on the inspection side. You want to be, you know, in the sustainability side. There's just so many ways to go. And I think, you know, I think that's what our program and Purdue in general tries to do. One, we have to provide the background education, and two, we have to provide opportunity. But then it's the student themselves. I mean, Orlando and Trevor are great examples. They didn't just take the CM program. They tried to build their resume. They tried to do multiple internships, engaged. You know, I've had, you know, many conversations after class with our students because they heard something in class, but now they want to know more. They want to know how they can get more information. When you start doing that, then you just keep opening up more and more opportunities for yourself when it comes time to choose. Some of our students know exactly what they're going to do from day one. I'm going to this state, I'm shooting for this company in this position. And some of our students say, hey, I'm going to try a little bit of everything to see if I can land on something that I'm passionate for. So I think that's the name of the game, is making sure that we provide opportunity for our students and then let them take it from there.
All right, very cool. Mark, you mentioned new changes, and one thing I want to make sure we bring up tonight is the new building that is currently being constructed right next door to Conoy Hall, the Engineering Polytechnic Gateway Complex. If I remember correctly, the entire construction management department is moving to the Gateway building. Is that correct? Can you give us some details about what that looks like for our lab facilities and what our students are going to be able to experience when that opens in January of 23?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's going to be a phenomenal move. We do get to keep some of our space in our existing building. The DCI team will be setting up their home base there. We'll keep our existing construction lab for some specialty things and for some research. But the new space, I mean, obviously it's a new building. It's got, you know, all the latest, greatest amenities and food court and, you know, all those things that make being a student and working here at Purdue a little easier. But I think one of the things we're most excited about is our new instructional space. So we tried to help design, and Luciana and I were part of the design team for that building. So we tried to make the spaces as collaborative as possible and really think about how we would teach in that space. And probably the biggest change is our construction lab. It's going to be almost 5 times the size of our current lab. Whole new crane system, remote control crane operation, which the students learn how to use and learn about rigging and things like that. But I think the exciting thing is when we build structures now in the lab, the structures will be able to stay up. And then other courses in our program will be able to use those structures. So for instance, CM150 has the ability to build up to 6 tiny houses in the lab at the same time. Well, we may have to take 2 of those down because CM150 then needs to build a 2-story steel structure. That's part of the course. You know, they're setting steel and understanding what it takes to set steel. Well, we'll leave the 4 tiny houses up, and maybe a sophomore course or a junior level course will be able to come down and use the lab and put in mechanical, electrical, plumbing. We can do insulation. We can do blower door testing, thermal scans of the building, you know, to talk about conserving energy and being green and sustainable. So it's just going to be a really dynamic space because it can be used by so many different parties. And sometimes just seeing what another class has worked on, you know, kind of gets your interest. And hey, I can't wait to be in that class. And, you know, that looks like a really cool project. And since we're all going to be sharing the space at different times because the size allows it, I think it's going to be game changing for our department. We were the first department in the country to have a construction lab. And it's time for us to take that next step and really do something amazing. And Gateway, the new building, will allow us to do that. And that's just one of the spaces we have. The other spaces are going to be dynamic and interactive, and we can open walls, close walls, so we can bring in more students or have a more, intimate, smaller group feel. So I think it's going to be a great space. I know our seniors are missing out on that, but that's just the luck of the draw and timing. But they'll be able to come back and visit and share their stories with our current students and see the new space.
I'm completely just reapplying. Like, I'm just going to go through the program again just so I can use this space.
Absolutely. We take you back, but you're bound for bigger and better things, Trevor.
All right, awesome. Thank you, Mark. Appreciate that. Yeah, I thought I heard 3 times the size of current construction lab, but 5 times. Good to know. Yeah, that's gonna be massive. So very cool. So real quick, Danielle, I want to get you back in here just to have our students can learn a little bit more about the STAR process, or I think it's going to be virtual STAR again this year for advising. How's that going to work for our students with this department?
So I believe I just read that June 1st is, I'm not sure what the date is for the first V-STAR modules to roll out, but then June 1st, the second set will roll out. So students need to do their V-STAR modules as soon as possible. I realize it might be rolling out before you even graduate from high school. Take your time, get your high school stuff done, but once you get all that done, take your V-STAR modules. Advisors will get spreadsheets daily of students who have completed their V-STAR, in which case Glorabelle and I will start inviting you to make appointments with us. And so we'll meet and we'll talk about what kind of AP credit you have, what kind of dual credit you have. We'll talk about math. All the questions that you have will get answered. And we'll start building a schedule for you, start requesting your classes for the fall. And Glorabelle and I both build kind of a 4-year plan for every student to meet their personal needs. And we'll, as you're here through your 4 years, we'll start adding to it. If you want minors, if you want certificates, we'll keep adding to it. And so I believe that Glorabelle and I will start meeting with students on or after June 1st. So definitely the sooner the better, because we have to meet with many of you and there's only 2 of us. So we need to make sure we get everybody met so we can meet the deadline so that everybody can get their courses requested for fall.
All right, awesome. Thank you. And yeah, if you haven't already started doing so, start checking your Purdue email account on a regular basis, just because a lot of that information may start coming there in the next few weeks as you go through the rest of your admissions process. And once you've accepted your offer, your new student portal, your new student checklist, and your My Purdue portal, all that good stuff, check your Purdue email. And I think Ryan, I think you might have mentioned that you were the advisor for the student chapter here for the National Association of Home Builders, if I remember correctly. I want to ask Orlando and Trevor, what organizations have you guys been involved in within your area, and then just more fun, social, cool things that are happening here at Purdue overall? And Trevor, we'll start with you.
So the main thing I'm involved in is I am the president of the Women in Construction Management Club. Luciana is actually our faculty advisor for that. It's pretty much women in construction. We bring awareness to the women in the construction industry. We used to sell pink hard hats. I still have one. I think they're going to bring them back next year. We're going to start selling them again. I'm also have been a Witty Sister mentor and a Polytechnic High School mentor, which is just 2 different types of mentorship that I've done. I have been a member of the American Society of Healthcare Engineers, which has to do with my healthcare concentration in construction management. And then for my fun thing that I do outside of the Polytechnic is I am a member of the Block and Bridle Club, which is through the agriculture school. And so in the fall, we do a livestock show. So I get to show cattle and pigs and sheep, and it kind of brings me back to my 4-H roots that I grew up with. And then in the springtime, they do a giant FFA conference related thing. So it's an ag conference similar to FFA. And that's just my fun activity.
Yeah, and for me, so some of the clubs I've been part of within the CM program have been NHB with Mark, and we get to go to Vegas and put a prompt together similar to our capstone project. And I know this past semester they went to Orlando. I think they're going to start going back to Vegas. So it was a great time. So that was one of the clubs I was part of. Another one that I was part of is National Association of Minority Contractors, which I was the president of and kind of brought back just post-COVID. with Anthony Sparkling being the professor advisor for that. And that was a really cool time just because I got to, unlike some of these other organizations, I got to bring this up from nothing just because I had like literally no foundation, no documentation, no past really. So it was really fun to just make it my own club, if you will, and just create new different activities that all the students can get activated with. And I know we're working now with MCAA to do like a golf outing within our program we'll bring like, I think right now we have like 25 companies and maybe donations that they're going to donate to all the clubs for us to use for different resources such as for women in construction as well, and all the clubs in CM. And some of the other clubs I'm part of as well, outside of that I've been part of that I really have enjoyed. Some of you freshmen are going to be part of it. BGR, that was like one of my most memorable ones. I was the TO for that, and that was just a cool time for me just because, as you guys can tell, I'm really much a people's person, so I really like to just like talk to a lot of different people and interact with everyone and get to know who people are and where they come from. And then probably my favorite one, believe it or not, Ryan, is an ambassador. I always get students asking me why is I don't get paid to do this. I just love trying to get people the resources within Purdue because we have so many opportunities, so many free resources within Purdue. It's something that I would love to teach everyone how to take advantage of because I've learned a lot through it, and I keep learning every single day about free resources, and I try to encourage all the new students coming in and love to mentor people or just have a conversation of what I would have done differently, so if you will.
Well, that makes me feel good. Thanks for you and Trevor both being part of Ambassadors for so many years as well. And Orlando, I'm still kind of upset that you didn't let me be a chaperone to your trip for Vegas a few years ago. That I asked and you said no. So maybe in the future we'll see if other students take me up on it. But all right, thank you all very much for sharing that. And Orlando mentioned BGR, Boiler Gold Rush. We acronym everything here at Purdue, and there's an actual website for what each acronym at the university means. So check that out if you want to kind of get up to date on the lingo, the acronyms here at the university. So yeah, thank you all for sharing that insight and information. And that does wrap up our discussion for tonight. So I want to thank our viewers at home, our admitted students and their family members, if they joined us as well, submitting questions and getting some good insight and information here about our construction management technology department in the Polytechnic. Thank you to our amazing panelists for sharing all the information, your experiences that you've had so far, and your time with the Polytechnic as well. Thanks to John, our technical director behind the scenes, managing everything, responding to the questions and posting our graphics on the chat as well. If you have any other questions that you want to submit, let us know, reach out to us, send us an email, techrecruit@purdue.edu. We'll be sure to follow up with anything you want to know about the department, the Polytechnic, or Purdue University overall. We do have one more virtual admitted student session on April 14th that covers some more general Polytechnic and Purdue related things, kind of help with transition, involvement, and support, go through some of those details. And we also have a student life focused YouTube broadcast coming up on April 19th. So just a couple of weeks away, we'll have just what's going on with our students. We heard a little bit about student organizations and things from Trevor and Orlando, but let's talk about everything that's going on here at Purdue for our students as well. You can also request a one-on-one meeting with one of our staff members in the Office of Recruitment, Retention, and Diversity, and reach out to our student ambassadors and any other areas that you want to talk to them about. All that's through our admitted student page. You can see everything that's coming up and ways to connect with us there. You can also watch this broadcast again by going to polytechnic.purdue.edu/live. You can also look back at previous year's broadcasts that we've done with construction management as well. And just a quick reminder, your deadline to accept your offer of admission is coming up on May 1st. That's 26 days away. So take a look at that. Make sure you have that offer accepted as soon as you can. And otherwise, thank you all very much for joining us tonight. Have a great rest of your day or evening or whatever time it is, wherever you are. And remember to boiler up.